damn it.
Hey there, how's it going?
Oh, great. My biggest critic.
Damn, what an intro.
You're here to tell me to get on with it already, aren't you?
You're
You're to get mad at me because I haven't released the Neurodivergent Polyamorous video yet, right? Well, save your breath, okay? I've been working on it for weeks now, and I just am so frustrated, and there's no way you can make me feel any possibly worse.
No. I did want to check in, but more in a friendly, seeing how we're doing kind of way.
Horrible. We're feeling absolutely horrible.
That's not what you want to hear.
The script keeps turning into a huge mess. I keep getting stuck and then having a hard time focusing. This is step number 3 of writing this script, and if I can't nail it this time, I think I'm just gonna have to admit defeat.
Ooh, that sounds really frustrating.
Hit the showers, throw in the towel, retire the jersey. Guess I'll just disappoint my viewers that I've been teasing since last year about this video. Hey folks, so sorry, no video. Mandy's brain stopped working. Thanks for the views. Make sure to unsubscribe on your way out.
Holy anxious spiral, Batman.
And even Tom Nichols is having a hard time making it work on YouTube. Why do you think I could do it?
Okay. Calm down. Just breathe. It's gonna be okay. We'll figure this out. We've done it before.
Yeah, maybe in the past, but this time is different. I can't just call in the leftist cavalry.
Why not?
I just can't, okay?
Okay? I'll help then. We'll figure this out. Just talk to me. Tell me what's going on.
You're gonna help me by berating me about how stupid I am to have gotten myself in this situation in the first place?
Traditionally, that has been my MO, but not today.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Let's just simplify things and take it one step at a time, okay? So first, we gotta start the video, right? You know, we need an intro that is informative and catches the audience's attention.
God, this is so cringe.
Indulge yourself. All right, neurodivergent polyamorous video. Seems to me, first we gotta start with defining neurodivergent, right?
Oh, come on. They already know what that means. Look at them. They're a ridiculously smart audience.
So, look, it is possible that somebody watching this may have never heard this word before, and you get to define it for them for the very first time. That's an awesome responsibility. How do you go about it?
All right, fine. In script number 2, I created a character that was kind of good for this. I called her Lab Coat Mandy.
Lab Coat Mandy.
Lab Coat Mandy. Neurodivergence. What is it? Why is it? And how do we cure it? These and other such questions plague the scientific community.
Oh, okay. I see what you're going for.
An obvious choice. Derivative at best.
Who cares? Obvious isn't bad. What else does she have to say?
If you spend more than 5 minutes on TikTok, you may find yourself inundated with self-diagnosed sufferers of these diseases. Poor victims who are not living up to their full capitalistic potential. Maybe they weren't given enough attention when they were children, or their parents vaccinated them. Perhaps they spend too much time on their phones, or are confused by a lack of clear gender norms. Whatever the case, neurodiverse people represent a large and even alarming part of our population. But never fear, with a bit of hard work and determination, they too can be happy, healthy, heavily productive members of society.
And these are kids who will never pay taxes. They'll never hold a job. They'll never play baseball. They'll never write a poem. They'll never go out on a date.
You ruined everything, you stupid bitch.
Hate speech because you have a disability.
My name is Mainely Mandy, and I am neurodivergent. I'm also polyamorous, and when those two things mix, things can get very interesting. Neurodivergent is an umbrella term that is meant to describe how there is a not insignificant part of the population who process textures, emotions, sounds, the whole world differently than what has been normalized. I'm being very deliberate with the use of the word normalized here because honestly, I don't really know that many people who aren't neurodivergent, usually referred to as neurotypical. So for me, being neurotypical isn't the norm. Not to mention, these terms are really just adjectives, used in the same way as cis versus trans, or tall versus short. Just call us normal women. Well, what the f*** is even normal, Tiffany? Ever thought of that? I can name like 5 non-binary friends right now. I'll do it, don't tempt me. So what's normal is really socially constructed and can depend on a number of factors. You seem a tad hysterical. Would you like me to massage your genitals with a vibrating wand?
My wife swears by it.
Being neurodiverse has often been used interchangeably with being autistic, but there are a lot of people outside of the autistic community who could qualify for the neurodivergent label. ADHD, PTSD, Tourette's, synesthesia, Down syndrome, people with brain injuries, and so on. Fellow creator and gooey creature of the sewers, Mildred, made a video over on their channel about neurodiversity in Spider-Man, in which they say,
To be brief, the neurodiversity movement posits that there are a variety of types of human neurology, all of which are perfectly valid and healthy, such as autism or Tourette syndrome or obsessive-compulsive disorder. These things become disabilities due to societal and systemic barriers that favor neurotypical people, i.e., people with the most common type of neurology. It follows from the social model of disability, which views disability not as an innate deficiency to be corrected, but rather a difference to be accommodated. It's not that people's differences can't inherently make their lives more difficult. Obviously they can, but that the solution is to accommodate those difficulties rather than trying to fix the person. That disability emerges not from the impairment of the body or mind itself, perceived or otherwise, but the ways that the world fails to accommodate those impairments. Some disability advocates believe that it minimizes the struggles of people with more severe impairments. Others argue that it might lead people to forego beneficial forms of treatment, to which a neurodiversity advocate might respond, beneficial to whom and why?
in this video, I'm going to tell you what it's like to be neurodivergent and polyamorous.
Oh, wait a minute. That's not really accurate.
I'm going to tell you what it's like for me to be neurodivergent and polyamorous. It's important for you to know going into this that nothing I say should be taken as gospel for everybody who has my similar diagnosis. In fact, that is true for any neurodiverse persons that I talk about in this video. Not every autistic person experiences things the same way, and that goes, of course, for everybody else mentioned on that previously mentioned list. While we're getting some caveats out of the way,
The following lecture discusses mental health, experiences with managing symptoms extensively, such as depression and hypomania, as well as suicide, self-harm, intrusive thoughts, and stigmas that neurodiverse people face. This lecture should not be used as replacement for any medically recommended treatment that you may currently be using. Known side effects include changes in appetite, having crazy ex-girlfriend spoil for you, and being, generally, a bit more bummed out. Should symptoms persist for more than 48 hours, viewers are recommended to smoke a big fat joint and then cuddle a creature they care about.
this is a difficult topic to discuss, all the more so because of my own personal experiences with it. Still, I intend to move forward with honesty and vulnerability.
Transparency. Excuse me? Well, just now you said vulnerability, but I don't think that's what you actually meant. I think you meant transparency. What's the difference? Transparency is disclosure. It's honest, but it's still filtered. This whole video was written out ahead of time. I am literally saying lines written out on a script. You're making very deliberate choices about what will and won't be discussed. And vulnerability? Vulnerability is messier. It's raw. It's in the moment. It's spontaneous. It's being yourself with a hope that you'll be accepted, even though it's not polished. I suppose you're right.
Still, I intend to move forward with honesty and transparency.
Better. Good.
I'm going to tell you a bit about myself that is honestly difficult to put into words. I'm going to talk about how it affects my life, my relationships, not just my romantic ones, as well as work. I'm going to tell you about the dirty, shameful bits, as well as the beautiful. I'm going to tell you what it's like to be diagnosed with bipolar and borderline.
This is the one. I can feel it.
A diagnosis, a diagnosis.
I like Lab Coat Mandy. She's horrible, don't get me wrong, but she does fulfill the purpose that she's meant to serve. Good job. Thanks. What do you think we should do now? Probably best to talk specifics about us, like what bipolar and BBD mean for us. The lab coat Mandy here, you can always bring her in if anything starts to get a little too scientific or dry.
Yeah, I did that in some of the other scripts too. I think the best way that worked was, while the scientific community has come together on many non-controversial subjects, such as bloodletting or tempers, there's still many things we just don't agree on. For example, some of my colleagues believe that borderline is actually a form of bipolar, while the majority of experts seem to agree that they are separate disorders, or at the very least there is more research required before we can even begin to say that with more certainty. It just goes to show you that there's still so much that we don't know for certain. Next week, I'm starting a study about how hair dye might be causing women to join the workforce. Okay, so I am diagnosed with bipolar mood disorder type 2 and discouraged borderline personality disorder. This combination is sometimes referred to as border polar, which is kind of awkward, and as you can hear, I am having a hard time saying it. So I personally think that we should refer to it instead as byline. Anybody with me? Anybody? Huh? Now, I know I have a pretty smart audience and recognize that many of you may already be familiar with the clinical definition of these words, or else have just heard them in general anyway. I also imagine that there might be some of you in the audience right now who are actually diagnosed with one or both of these. But what do those words mean for me specifically? Well, basically it means that I'm the main character of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Subject suffering from main character disorder.
Crazy ex-girlfriend.
For anybody not familiar, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend is about a deeply unhappy woman who happens to run into her ex-boyfriend one day from her younger teenage years and decides to move across the country to live in the same city as him to hopefully eventually win him over. She ends up committing several crimes, makes friends, and also comes to terms with the peculiarities of her own mental illness. Also, it's a musical.
Let's generalize about men. Nothing is ever anyone's
Nothing is ever anyone's.
No one else is singing my song.
Someone once famous said that every human emotion could be found in the complete works of William Shakespeare. All of my emotions can be found in Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
We'll never have problems again.
Mania, an intense feeling of joy and confidence, sometimes to euphoric levels, which is also usually accompanied by an increase in energy. Common to those with bipolar. Bipolar type 2, the kind that I've been diagnosed with, means that I experience a technically less severe version called hypomania. When I'm feeling hypomanic, I feel a lot more energized and eager to work on projects. I feel more optimistic about life and feel more desirable. I'm not particularly religious or have any kind of defined spirituality in any sense, but I probably get the closest to feeling that way when I'm hypomanic. I tend to get the sense that like everything in the universe has to work out in a certain way and that there's like a balance out there because there has to be, I guess. I might also get so energized that I'm not able to sleep and then I'm more irritable the next day. It also can lead me to making impulsive decisions, mostly around spending money or maybe making a move on someone that is objectively a terrible idea. I also have a tendency to make a lot of plans that I then future, less elevated Mandy has to deal with. A very intense fear of abandonment is perhaps the #1 common denominator for borderlines. The subject doesn't even need someone to leave them to trigger this fear. It just has to be perceived as one, emotionally. For example, if a loved one were to get a new job that causes them to spend less time together, then the borderline might experience this as a loss. When I first got my borderline diagnosis, this is the one that really stood out to me the most. I am very sensitive to the possibility of people leaving me, which leads me to be both very anxious but also yet avoidant in my attachment styles. I tend to become either clingier or go in the opposite direction, pushing said person away because I'm afraid I might be in danger of losing them. Basically borderline for you can't fire me, I quit. Fair enough. Becoming attached to someone and then feeling like they're going to leave me or don't like me as much as I thought they did can be a major triggering event. See, people with borderline often have a
Yes, Josh completes me, but how can that be when there's no me left to complete?
meaning that they don't feel like a fully formed person. They often struggle with low confidence and may find themselves jumping from interest or careers, trying to find whatever their true calling is. breakup, falling out with a friend, or receiving criticism can be seen as validation that they are unlovable or unwanted. Often, their greatest underlying fear.
When things didn't go well, I take it as confirmation that no one would ever want to be with me. When things went too well, I deliberately set up obstacles, attempts to unearth the sentiment I'd assumed anyone involved with me had, that deep down, they didn't really like me. That they were only ever one bad episode, one fight, one trial away from abandoning me.
And before you go judging too harshly, please keep in mind that for many of us, we've already had things happen in our life that taught us this lesson. Perhaps we had absent parents or experienced losses at a young age that hit us particularly hard. When something happens that reminds us of these events, it can be the inciting incident that activates the nastiest of our symptoms.
You don't wanna be crazy, and you don't wanna be crazy.
Both bipolars and borderlines are infamous for just how quickly and abruptly their emotions can change. Borderlines especially may experience a range of emotions in a relatively short period of time. In times of dysregulation and stress, the borderpolar the bi-line may cycle more frequently. One minute they could be happy, well-adjusted, and comfortable in their own skin. The next, believing themselves to be a failure, certain that everybody around them hates them. We are all, of course, aware of just how much more difficult the lives of those close to neurodiverse people can be. But a byline may come to this conclusion regardless of any evidence that has actually come forward or not. This can lead some to experience:
I'm the villain in my own story. I'm the witch in my own tale.
This one basically sounds like what it is. Sometimes when a person with BPD is feeling overstimulated or overwhelmed, they may suddenly, seemingly out of nowhere, lash out. They may yell, throw something, or punch a wall. None of which are particularly productive and healthy ways of dealing with intense emotions. These kinds of outbursts are almost always immediately followed by intense feelings of guilt and shame, which then again easily trigger that sense of poor self that we talked about earlier. It also can create
Tell me I'm okay, Patrick. No pressure, but I seriously need to know.
You see, unlike us normal people, borderlines lack a clear sense of purpose, an idea of who or what they're truly meant to be. In their video about mental illness, the leftist cook said this of the disorder:
Borderline personality disorder is characterized by fluctuating identity. Like people with NPD may compensate for the fluctuations in their self-esteem by trying to project self-importance, people with BPD may compensate for their fluctuating identity by throwing themselves into different careers or relationships or social groups, trying to cover up a gnawing sense of chronic emptiness.
Fighting those feelings of emptiness can cause some borderlines trying to fight feeling it altogether, including by avoiding being alone at all costs. As a leading scientific expert in this field, I encourage those with borderline to find healthy coping mechanisms to deal with their problems the way the rest of us do.
depression, the other side of the bipolar coin. I'm pretty sure we all know what depression is, but just to cover our bases.
An intense lethargy, no longer enjoying favorite pastimes, as well as being unmotivated to take care of oneself. Or, as my father used to call it, being lazy.
Depression and I know each other well, unfortunately. When it's really bad, I might call out of work, be unmotivated to feed or bathe myself, feel completely overwhelmed and numb. My depression spirals can fully extend into withdrawing completely from my loved ones, having convinced myself that everybody doesn't actually like me anyway, and that I'm just a waste of space. I won't jump at the opportunities that come my way during depression spiral, like if somebody were to ask me out on a date, or if I was asked to be in a comedy show. And then there's, of course, over 75% of those diagnosed with borderline personality disorder will attempt to take their life at least once. For bipolar, the number seems to be about 1 in 3 people.
Hey.
Yeah.
Are you okay? Do you You need a break, maybe?
No, I'm fine. Thanks.
You sure?
I'm sure.
I know we've come close a couple times.
I said I'm fine to keep going.
I just wonder if maybe that's why it's been hard to work on this one. It's pretty personal.
I get personal on this channel all the time.
Maybe that's part of the problem.
No, the problem is what's defining what's neurodivergent and what's not.
Oh?
I started off this video by saying that every aspect of a person can be affected by the neurodivergence. That doesn't mean that every quirk a neurodivergent person has is an inherently neurodivergent one. Lately, I've been seeing people online make the claim that being able to predict accurately the plot of a film is like an ADHD thing.
Wait, so media literacy or knowing TV tropes is like a sign of a spicy noggin now?
Yeah, I don't know. It just kind of feels like sometimes I'm just pulling things out of my ass, hoping that it's like the right level of quirky for people.
Like?
I can get really overstimulated when there's overlapping sounds. For example, if I'm on the phone talking and there's noise around me, I can get really overwhelmed by that really quickly. And once overwhelmed, I might have one of those sudden lash outs. I'm not saying this is definitely one, but I do have a tendency to make up songs about the things that I'm doing while I'm doing them. Partially because it's fun.
When did I talk, lab coat Mandy, do, where do I talk? Oh, there I am.
But also partially because it helps me remember what I'm doing so I don't forget. That's a little free tip for all my ADHD siblings out there. Hope you like that one. There's something I experienced that I didn't even know how to name for until a friend of mine with ADHD told me about it. It's called maladaptive daydreaming. They talked about how sometimes when they're caught up in a fantasy or a memory, it can bring on almost real physical sensations. I know for myself personally, I sometimes might see my lips just kind of start moving along with whatever internal monologue is going on in that moment.
Honestly, I relate a lot to ADHD and see my own kind of quirks and symptoms burning very parallel to it.
Do you think that we received the wrong diagnosis, or are they just very similar in presentation?
Pass. See this right here, what we're doing right now. This is part of the problem. There's no clearly defined lines. Some of the autistic people in my audience might relate to what I'm talking about, but whenever I've looked at autistic diagnostic criteria, it doesn't really feel like it fits, other than some of the sensory stuff. There's so much overlap.
That's an understandable frustration. Maybe there's also a bit of a hesitation there to accept the label for yourself.
Certainly hearing neurodivergent being essentially synonymous with autistic probably doesn't help that much. I remember one time telling a friend that I really related to this neurodivergent meme I had seen, and they actually got annoyed at me because at the time I wasn't diagnosed yet. To be perfectly honest, it's been a lot harder to accept the neurodivergent label than the queer one.
Anything else you'd like to rant about while we're here?
Okay, well, yeah, now that you mention it, I hate how medical the whole thing sounds, symptoms, diagnostic criteria. It sounds so medical, like I have some kind of ulcer as opposed to something that I am. It just kind of flattens it all. Makes it sound like I just suffer as opposed to living my life. Because the truth is, it's not all suffering.
I think I see where this is going. You want to go ahead and make an Act 1 confessional, buddy?
I read this book by a bipolar woman called An Unquiet Mind. Now, she's been diagnosed with type 1, much more severe than mine, and she was diagnosed a while ago, back when they were still largely calling it manic depressive.
Right, yeah, Kay Redfield something. You read that 2 years ago?
Do you remember how she talked about her mania?
I raced around like a weasel, bubbling with plans and enthusiasms, immersed in sports and staying up all night, night after night, and out with friends, reading everything that wasn't nailed down, filling manuscript books with poems and fragments of plays, and making expansive, completely unrealistic plans for my future. The world was filled with pleasure and promise. I felt great. Not just great, I felt really great. I felt I could do anything, that no task was too difficult.
And you know what? She's right. Mania or hypomania, like what I experienced, it feels amazing. It really does. Till it doesn't. It just feels taboo in some way, like some kind of dirty little secret, like admitting that something about bipolar or BPD could be good, actually. It can be something you enjoy.
It's okay not to hate yourself, right?
let's move on. This wasn't the part of the script I was struggling with anyway.
This thing we had was not just bad, it was a show.
Solid first section. Really love the crazy ex-girlfriend references. Great job.
Oh. Thanks?
Okay, so what's next? Polyamory, right? I mean, this video is about both, and we've mostly just kind of focused on the neurodivergent part.
Oh, bothered you, didn't it?
No, just a gentle suggestion.
Oh, okay, well, yeah, I guess that's a good point. We should probably talk about my relationships now.
You got this.
Maintaining relationships when one is crippled with neurodivergence is very difficult, though not impossible. It is, of course, vital that those who are close to the neurodivergent person learn the telltale signs of that disorder in order to protect themselves and to keep the other person in check. For example, I find that having a cattle prod on my person at all times is very helpful when dealing with my patients. Yes, nothing quite breaks somebody out of a depressive spiral or rains in a lash out like 500,000 watts of electricity straight to the tit.
Somebody's got a fetish.
Fetish? Madam, this is science.
Okay, so you all know now a bit more about the way that I tick. But what does that mean in a practical sense? What does all of this look like in action? Well, basically what it means is that I can experience very intense emotions at any given moment.
You don't wanna be crazy.
And anybody who is with me is also going to experience that. In new relationships, I can find myself very excited and constantly thinking about that person and just wanting to spend a lot of time with them, which is a great feeling. Who doesn't love a little NRE, new relationship energy? But the problem is that sometimes in this early phase, that can lead to
We'll never have problems again.
I can find myself pursuing a connection with someone where the interest is mismatched because I have unconsciously or consciously decided that this person's approval validates my own worth.
Tell me I'm okay, Patrick.
So as I find myself interested in new people, I have to be really conscious about the amount of energy that I'm putting into it. Not only because the management of my emotional bandwidth is very important for the management of both of my disorders, but also because if I use up all of my energy with a new connection, then there's none left for the ones that I'm already committed to. In terms of more active parts of being non-monogamous, there are some who feel that neurodiverse people are specially equipped to handle it. For example, in an interview with Alicia Gonzalez, the author of Non-Monogamy and Neurodiversity, she says that neurodiverse people tend to excel at direct communication.
You said you were very direct, and that makes a lot of sense to me, that being direct would be something that would be very helpful in a lot of situations, so that you don't have to think about all of what's going on internally, the minutiae, but more just this is what it is, and I'm telling it to you straight.
Exactly. And it's not even just for autistic people necessarily, although it's probably the most overrepresented group that sees the word neurodivergent and thinks, yes, me. It's like if someone is dealing with CPTSD or something, that there can be very different reactions to emotional topics that lead to a different approach to communication that can be useful when the topic is tense and so on. I don't necessarily expect someone who's actively suffering to also be a very effective communicator, but the same tools that can help someone who has that condition can be very helpful when someone is having a conversation where a lot of old heuristics don't apply.
Since non-monogamy isn't the norm, the best approaches tend to involve a lot of self-work and clear communication with partners. Now, this isn't to imply in any way that monogamy lacks that inherently, just that it's far more normalized in non-monogamous spaces because, well, it kind of comes with the territory. If you want to date multiple people ethically, you first need to know what works best for you, but then also need to take into consideration what works for your partners. Is it okay for dates to come over to a house that you share with a spouse? So Dr. Seuss sounding. How much PDA is acceptable, and where does it draw the line? Should you be sharing any details of sexual experiences with others? Is even asking for a bit more discretion in itself a form of silencing? These are just a small sample of some of the questions that might come up and be considered in conversations with multiple partners. I see much of the same kind of self-recognition and advocacy in neurodiverse friend groups. Do you need subtitles on, or are they too distracting? What material do the bed sheets need to be, and what white noise playlist is acceptable put on? So it makes a lot of sense to me when you combine non-monogamy with neurodiversity that you get carefully negotiated relationships with multiple people that are honest, accessible, and mindful.
The things that are normal often don't make sense to us, and people that feel okay about normal get very defensive about that fact. And once we're at a point where just the basic realities of existing in a space whose rules they got to decide doesn't fit, once it's very easy to start looking around for alternatives that actually do feel right and mesh with us. And it comes very naturally to neurodivergent people, especially autistic people, but I think this is a broader experience, that once normal extensively demonstrates that it's not for us, so it's hard to feel beholden to it anymore. Alternative lifestyles of basically every sort are absolutely chock full of neurodivergent people. In addition to not being terribly invested in a normal that is not serving us, we're much more likely to encounter a weird thing and think, yes, this feels amazing, and not, that's weird. They're going to think I'm weird if I do the weird thing.
Well, the subject still requires a lot more research. There are some studies that seem to indicate that neurodivergent people, particularly autistic folks, seem to be drawn to non-monogamy. It's a community that also has a lot of queer overlap. When you're already in a place where you're outside certain norms, it makes a lot of sense that you might find yourself exploring what other norms need not apply. Amber Green, by the way, has a really interesting video that at part talks a little bit about the overlap between the trans community and the autistic community. So if you haven't seen that, I would recommend giving that a watch. I have seen many a polycule have conversations about people's particular needs. Sometimes this was about what was or wasn't helpful during a moment of emotional dysregulation, or maybe memory jogging tricks that help ADHD partners not forget dates.
As someone who has trouble figuring out the unwritten rules of social interaction, it's incredibly liberating to throw away the rulebook altogether. There is no room for assumptions. The multitude of expectations and boundaries functioning in the relationships are more likely to be explicitly discussed and defined in detail. Knowing exactly what's okay, what isn't, and what a partner wants from me is a much more comfortable way to be. There's also a structure there to get everyone's slots of time worked into something resembling a schedule. The aspects of a poly relationship style that may seem regimented or unromantic to others are what most appeal to me. It feels safe, with some level of certainty and predictability.
So clear communication in neurodiverse relationships, which is already normalized in non-monogamous spaces, leads to better relationships. Clear rules, understood expectations, shared end goals. That tracks.
Yes, but it's not like neurodivergent automatically equals better at relationships. I mean, we're still human after all. It's not like all my autistic friends are perfect at non-monogamy just because they're really into time management. Non-monogamy makes a lot of sense to me and for me in a very logical way, but I still struggle sometimes with direct communication, and then I can feel really guilty about it.
Do we deal with RSD?
Rejection sensitivity dysphoria? Yeah, for sure. Very common in ADHD, of course, but not exclusive by any means.
Anyone knows how many abbreviations there are?
It's just so easy to tell myself that I'm just making something out of nothing or give the other person the benefit of the doubt. And then, if someone does make a suggestion on how to improve things, it can just, hit my heart in this weird way where it feels like they're almost implying I'm a bad or stupid person for not accommodating something that sometimes I might think I already have.
Some grace though. It's not like we haven't had situations in which we thought everything was fine, only to be hit out of left field by someone's uncommunicated expectations. And in our early home life, we certainly dealt with being treated like we were stupid or dumb for not knowing something that was never taught to us.
All of that is to say that my fear of losing people means I am sometimes a bit sensitive to receiving any criticism, afraid that affirms those not good and worthy enough feelings. And it can even trigger a depressive spiral. Depression. When you're someone who is sensitive to any perceived abandonment and in multiple relationships, doesn't really increase your sense of stability, at least not for me. So mindfulness is key for me to keep everything in balance and to proceed forward. Some neurodivergent find that having some kind of check-in phrase with their partner, something like mindfulness or ground time or whatever, helps them to check in if something seems amiss. Now, personally, I haven't really implemented this in my relationships because it kind of feels like I'm outsourcing, regulating myself, and I don't really like that idea of doing it that way. With that said, though, I can understand why some people might disagree with me and find this a helpful tool to do.
Do you remember a while back, we were in that non-monogamous group, and there was somebody who said that they had to go on dates with their bipolar partner? You know, like they had to be there with them if they were on dates with other people.
Yeah. I seem to remember them saying that it was a way to keep their partner grounded, like a human reality check or something.
That always kind of hit me weird, you know? Like, I understand that neurospicy people, you know, don't always perceive or see things exactly the same way as others, but to require like a whole other person like on the date with you, I don't know, that one always felt really infantilizing to me.
Right? Also, how is the person coming into this situation supposed to know the other partner's intentions? I mean, that's a lot of trust to put into someone you don't know. What if they're jealous or controlling? What if it's a line to excuse unicorn hunting?
But on the flip side, is not accommodating that some sort of ableism? Is it an understandable conflict of boundaries, or is it something else?
You see why the script was so hard to finish?
For real. I need a nap.
In theory, being in multiple relationships gives you a larger pool of resources, including perceptions on your behavior. It's not always easy to judge for ourselves whether or not our reactions are proportional. So having other people that can say, yeah, I think you're fine, or maybe you need to take a few minutes to think this over, could be very invaluable. It's easy to dismiss a single person who disagrees with you, but a whole brunch table worth of people? Much harder. And the built-in understanding and solidarity that can come from having multiple partners or metas who are going through the same thing as you cannot be overstated. A lot of my autistic friends have been made to feel at one time or another that they didn't express their emotions correctly, sometimes even being accused of not having emotions at all. So being around other people who understand that a blank expression doesn't necessarily mean anything can be a huge relief.
How is finding sources for this one?
Complicated. Yeah, like there's definitely more resources than there used to be, but it's still a bit of an uphill battle. So many of the resources out there for people who are neurodivergent and polyamorous is geared specifically for autistic people, which I want to make very clear. I love that for you. That's really great that they have those resources, but you know, if you're one of the more outlying neurospicy people, it kind of makes it a little tough. Also, when you start looking up insert personality disorder here that people seem to not really know that much about, and worse relationship structure that people seem intent on presenting in the worst way possible, you tend to get some pretty iffy results.
Study had over 500 non-monogamous participants being questioned in a clinical setting. All of them had a history of trauma, and approximately 40 to 50%, depending on gender and type of non-monogamy, demonstrated borderline or narcissistic personality traits. To give you some context, only about 1% of the general population has NPD, 1.5% for BPD. In inpatient psychiatric treatment centers and hospitals, 20% of patients are BPD. So it looks like you are twice as likely to encounter someone with a dangerous cluster B personality disorder dating in the polyamorous scene than in a mental hospital. The study concluded that a need for narcissistic control/validation in relationships seemed to be the main motivator for becoming non-monogamous. This is a clinical study, meaning the participants were interviewed and observed. They didn't get to tell the psychologists what they wanted to hear or how they'd like to be perceived via a survey, but were questioned and observed like you would a patient who might lack awareness/insight. If you've been in one of these relationships, chances are you've suffered emotional, psychological, and sexual abuse. Maybe even financial, if you've had exploitative and irresponsible partners and metamours.
I already knew this just by interacting with some of them. Anybody attempting to triangulate people into a modern-day harem has a personality disorder, and they should be avoided and harshly shunned, frankly. I expect that the other 50% in this study are their victims, who don't have the strength to leave and aren't truly polyamorous. The types who orbit the main BPD-NPD black hole of the polycule like dying galaxies, pretending they enjoy the whole arrangement while enduring massive emotional pain.
Yikes on trikes.
Well, at least with that Reddit post, you had people in the comments pointing out how disreputable that particular publication was, which of course then extends to the study itself.
100%. But it's still really frustrating to put in borderline plus polyamory and then find out that apparently I am too jealous, controlling, and unhinged to make it work.
Ooh, I sense a tangent coming on.
Yeah, I really wanted to avoid talking about this because I don't want this video to be 2 hours long. But while we're here, we need to talk about AJ Mahari.
I'm a good person, yes, it's true. I'm a good person, better than you.
Whenever I'm working on a video, I check a few of the publications I frequent, such as YouTube, to see what exists on the subject. I do that in part because I want to see, of course, what there's out there for educational and research purposes, but also because I want to see if the video that I want to make essentially already exists. I believe the scientific term for this is covering one's ass. When I searched for borderline and polyamory in the YouTube search bar, I came up with this episode from a podcast by kindred spirited scholar AJ Mahari. Let's take a quick listen and see what Miss Mahari has to say.
They have deficits of communication, lack and loss of self, unstable identity, arrested emotional development at a very young age in life, so they don't have the maturity or the ability to ever be satisfied or happy with themselves or in any relationship, be it monogamous or polyamorous.
People with all the patterns of BPD undiagnosed or diagnosed, both groups untreated, are not emotionally capable of anything that even remotely resembles a healthy relationship.
Was that a sentence?
I'm afraid so.
While AJ Mahari does work with women, her practice is and always has been primarily 90% men. Through her work with thousands of male clients over 33 years, AJ has learned a tremendous amount about men from men. AJ wants every man to know I care greatly about what men are facing after cluster B relationships, and also generally in a culture of gynocentrism. The lies of feminism have not only traumatized men, but haven't helped women either. Men of all ages have told me for years now, sadly, about the very painful nature of how many family or origin and societal factors have left them feeling not seen or heard or valued or connected or cared about, and especially by women.
Please, make it stop.
No.
AJ Mahari, my new arch nemesis. She is a content creator and self-appointed expert on borderline personality disorder. She has a podcast called BPT Recovery and Codependency Recovery. And if you're a bit annoyed that she used the word recovery twice, well, just hold on to your biscuits, sweetheart, because there is so much more needless repetition where that came from. Here's the standard formula for a Mahari title. Think of something only a terrible person would do. Then put in the word borderline, borderlines, or BPD. Mix in more than just a little sprinkle of judgment, and voila, you get such catchy titles as BPD Relationship Recycling, Get Your BPD X Back is Recycling the Trauma Bond. I had to read that. There was no way I was going to remember that one. Oh, look, she's got a few with the word woke in them, I bet. Those are something.
Have some people, or many people, with BPD lost in the online narrative of BPD. Oh, they're also victimized by us YouTubers. They're also victimized by everybody else in their lives. And I got abused by one today. A borderline who's being abusive. Get out of here! You gotta be kidding me, right?
Oh boy.
This is starting to feel like satire.
Welcome to living in 2025, baby.
Mahari's credentials? From what I can tell, simply her personal experiences. Certainly when I was looking around her website, I couldn't find anything that indicated any sort of degree or any kind of education in counseling or mental health. Hello, quick editing Mandy fix here. So when I was gathering some of my screenshots and such for this video, I did find this line here in Mahari's like About Me page on her website that did say that she spent time in university, but like it doesn't really elaborate on that. Most of the time when I see, mental health experts or people in these fields, they'll say like, graduate of this with a PhD in this. And I just couldn't find anything that was more specific. It just says spend time in university. And that doesn't even acknowledge if she got a degree in psychology or what exactly. It's not very specific. And maybe it is on the website somewhere and I missed it, much like I missed this earlier, unless this was a later edition. I'm not sure. This is a video that's been in the work for like 2 years now. So stuff obviously changed. So, definitely could be me, could have missed that somewhere, but like it's not anywhere in this about page. Like I read through it a few times. Granted, I have a very hard time reading Mahari's writing. It's just not very well edited in my opinion. I think she needed a beta reader for this, in my personal opinion. It's a little rambling, so it's quite possible it's in here somewhere and I missed it. But like I did read through this a few times, and then this sentence right here that talks about university, you think it would be right there. But there's nothing in here that specifies a particular degree or anything. So she spent time in university, and I guess that, I also spent time in university. I study creative writing and theater arts. Does that mean I get to talk about...
While poking around on her website, I noticed that she makes a lot of wide generalizations of those diagnosed with BPD, usually referring to them simply as borderlines. And she very rarely backed up any of her thoughts with any citations or research. I guess she just knows these things because her brain is so big. Literally, at one point in her episode about BPD, she admits that there just isn't any research about whether or not people with mental illnesses tend to find monogamous or non-monogamous relationships satisfying. But she makes the assumption that borderlines couldn't ever possibly enjoy non-monogamy because we're all just so immature and lie all the time.
In 2018, there was a study that looked at people in monogamous relationships and people in non-monogamous relationships. And the study found no difference in relationship satisfaction between the two groups. And what they probably did, what they didn't study was people with personality disorders being involved in monogamous and non-monogamous relationships and how that really just doesn't work, and there's no real potential for it to be healthy. And this is what people with BPD can't do with one person, let alone more than one person. And many people find polyamorous relationships to be more enjoyable and easier to manage than monogamous relationships. But watch out for the acting out of the borderline.
Citation and intuition are basically the same word, right? And here's the real wild thing. She's been diagnosed with BPD.
Damn, I did not see that twist coming.
Me either. I was reading this anthology, This Is Not the End, which is a collection of essays and stuff written by borderline people, and she was in it.
Yeah, here it is. She says right here,
I would describe my full recovery BPD not just as no longer meeting the diagnostic traits I once met. What I mean by recovered is that I am today, and have not been for 20 years now, a person with balanced IQ and EQ, emotional quotient. I am a person who is in the average mentally healthy place where those who do not have or never had a personality disorder live. I have a reasoned and not overreactive style of relating, and my emotions are not triggered to dysregulation anymore.
This is a borderline narrative of well, they said this, they said that, they're demonizing us all. Oh my God, we're victims, we have a disability, give us a break. Oh, it's just a few bad people.
She seems to view herself as some kind of tough love crusader, forcing all of those nasty, immature, lying borderlines to grow up, while validating the stigmas of her audience, some of whom have had bad relationships with borderlines in the past.
Sometimes one must administer some tough love and firmness with somebody who is neurodivergent, particularly those with mood and personality disorders. Unacceptable behavior must be identified clearly and with great shame, for the good of all, but especially the neurodiverse person themselves.
In AJ's world, you're borderline until you decide just to stop being borderline and be a better person. Something which none of my research and experiences have shown is true, by the way. That's just her making more assumptions. Sometimes people with personality disorders might see their diagnosis as being essentially in remission, but you can't really cure a personality disorder as far as my own research shows. It can be managed to a point where it's no longer negatively affecting
affecting your life. But what she's suggesting is just completely unprecedented. And look, I don't do dunking videos. I don't really want to harp on some random woman who, after 14 years of doing YouTube, still only has like 45,000 subscribers. I don't like it. It's not what I'm about. Even with my being smaller, it still kind of feels a little bit like punching horizontally. I don't know. I don't like punching.
One of the many reasons I'm proud of you.
Well, I don't want to completely dismiss her out of hand. There are those who have claimed she's helped them. Believe it or not.
When I searched for her name in Reddit, it did come up several times in a subreddit specifically for those who had been in abusive relationships with those diagnosed with BPD. To be clear, this is a subreddit where people claim that their partners have BPD. They don't always know. And as somebody who has been abused by a person claiming to have a mental illness, I do empathize. To a point. I feel for Mahari, I truly do. It's very clear that she was once hurt really badly, and this is how she's decided to process and make sense of that pain. It seems that at one point she was in an abusive relationship with somebody who also had substance abuse issues. I don't want to come off as seemingly trying to imply that people with BPD don't have the capacity to be abusive. Like, I'm not saying that. Obviously, people with borderline, we can be just as harmful as anybody else. But I do think I have a problem with the idea of assuming someone that has been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder is inherently more abusive than other people. I certainly have a problem with the idea of assuming an abusive person has BPD without there being any evidence of that. In my opinion, AJ Mahari is not making the world a better place. She's not even helping those of us who've been diagnosed with borderline. In my opinion, she is just a hurt person who is lashing out. And as a person who has been hurt and lashed out before, I get it. I really do. That doesn't make it okay. And I hope she and her audience realize that one day. AJ Mahari is a cautionary tale to us all. That if we're not careful and become too short-sighted, too wrapped up in our own feelings and what works best for us, then we may forget that everyone's circumstances are different. By the way, please don't go and engage with this woman in any way. I think even the most gentlest of criticism would be interpreted as harassment. And the last thing I want to do is feed into her weird, anti-BPD obsession. Let's not add any fuel to that persecution fire, okay? If you really want to stick it to her, make sure you are subscribed below, like this video, and make sure to engage with it as much as possible. As a personal viewing of success, I would truly love to get bigger than her, so help me do that.
Hello, everybody. This is Editing Mandy, and I wanted to take a moment after having just ranted about Mahari to, maybe just do a little positive here. So some of you may not know, but I actually came out with a video about a month ago. That wasn't truly a video essay, it was more of a channel update, but it did also include a call up to action to help out a young man that lives in Gaza. I imagine most of you didn't see that video because according to the views, it didn't do very well, which kind of tracks, unfortunately, with the way that YouTube's algorithm has been, particularly in when we talk about non-nice subjects, I guess. But anyway, the point is, because that video didn't get a lot of views, as much as I'm sure even that little bit was helpful for Ahmed and his family, I still wanted to make sure to bring special attention to the fact that there are families in Gaza right now who could use help. I have a pretty small platform. There's not much attention that I get here most of the time, but occasionally my videos do well. And if this video does well, I'm hoping that I can at least bring a bit more attention to that previous video. You can give it a watch right here on YouTube, of course. But also, Ahmed, there was an update since that video came out that Ahmed's GoFundMe got taken down, which is some absolute bullshit. So, the need is really great, and there are now less venues for Ahmed and his family to get resources. They are in the middle of a famine. They are in the middle of a fucking genocide over there. I will say that with my full chest. I don't care how YouTube feels about that. So if you can help out this family, please do go watch that video, engage, go to Ahmed's Instagram. He is constantly posting about the situation in Palestine, including posting these really incredible, really ingenious hacks that the Palestinian people are doing in order to survive there. It's
one of those things where it's like one part really inspiring and like 3 parts, holy shit, it sucks that that's how you have to get water, if that makes sense. So please show some support. I will have those links to Ahmed's Instagram down below, as well as to hopefully a fundraising page. I think he might have posted a new one. I can't remember. To get him, the attention he needs. Engage, spread the word, free Palestine. Thank you.
He's the darkness, my first love, my true love.
Man, Mahari's such a fascinating figure to contemplate. She seems to have the mentality that because she cured her BPD, then anyone should be able to. If you're still mentally ill, you're choosing to be. Why would anyone choose to be that unless, of course, deep down, they were inherently already bad?
Yeah, you nailed it.
Still, I have to ask, why did you include that section about her? It's been in every version of the script so far.
Well, I mean, like I said, she's a cautionary tale, a possible future we could find ourselves sliding into if we're not diligent enough.
Huh. I don't think I buy it.
Here we go.
What?
You've been really lax with me, but I knew that eventually the gloves would come off and you would get down to the real reason you were here.
No, this is just gentle criticism, okay? Not like I usually come at you, just asking some questions, trying to invite a bit of gentle curiosity, as our therapist would say.
Sure.
Why did you include the Mahari section?
Why do you think?
What are you holding back?
Do I sound restrained to you?
You sound scared.
The hell do you mean?
Scared people are sometimes angry, and you're definitely angry. What is it about Mahari that brings that out in you?
Were you not paying attention? Do I need to play it for you again?
You're not answering. What is it?
You know what? I'm done.
The video isn't over, though.
I don't care. I'm done.
What has got you so freaked out about this one?
I'm scared because she's right. Mahari is infuriating and ill-informed and biased and definitely not equipped to talk about the subject that she has staged her entire career on. But you know what the worst sin of hers is? She's right. I'm dangerous. I can't be trusted. I mean, I can even trust myself if I'm in a good mood. Because what if I'm a hypomaniac and I don't realize that I'm talking too fast to be understood, or I commit to too many social interactions in a day and then am worn out and emotionally exhausted and can't be there for people, and then end up in a self-hating spiral that leaves me wanting to kill myself. Every crush that I have, I feel like I have to tiptoe around eggshells. Every friendship, I'm just waiting for the bottom to drop out at any minute. I can't risk getting swept up in any of my emotions, because if I do, there's a real chance that people could get hurt. No matter how well-intentioned I am. I've seen what happens when neurodivergent people become too, I don't know the word, complacent, comfortable, whatever the word is, for when you've decided that, you know what, my wire is different than everybody else. So whatever harm I've caused apparently doesn't actually count, and I don't need to face any real accountability. Mahari is definitely an asshole, but beneath all of her rants and her redundantly named bullshit, she does have a point that some neurodivergent people hide behind their diagnosis.
One time, somebody I knew, who for the purposes of the story it is important to know they are autistic, reached out to me because they wanted me to look over some messages between themselves and a mutual of ours claiming abuse. I take allegations of abuse very seriously, obviously, and it was somebody that I knew, so that was, doubly concerning. So I agreed to look and ended up spending hours looking over these screen captures this person sent to me. And I did find some concerning behavior from the person who sent it to me. So for the next week of my life, I did my best, gently and directly, to explain to this person why I felt their behavior was inappropriate, why I thought some of their reactions were out of proportion, and that maybe they needed to take some time to self-reflect and really internalize what I was telling them. And everything, literally almost everything I said to them was met with, but I'm autistic. But I'm autistic. But I'm autistic. It was so surreal. It was like being stuck inside some kind of ableist meme. I mean, this is somebody who would say I'm autistic when being corrected multiple times, by the way, on somebody else's pronouns, which is just so completely nonsensical to me. Autistic trans people exist? What? For all of my trouble, for all of the painful hours I spent trying to explain this in a way that made sense to them, they ultimately chose to triple down. They publicly lied and used it as an example of how neurotypical people unfairly treat autistic people, even going so far as to use things I said in confidence to them as being proof of this. But no one in that situation was neurotypical. I certainly am not, and the other two people that they were in conflict with were also autistic. So what the fuck was he even talking about?
I don't want to sound like her.
Do you think you're in danger of that?
I don't think we need to dismiss everything or be diligent gatekeepers with sticks up our asses. I think we can recognize people's life circumstances and the systems that they were born into being inherently unfair, but then also acknowledge that sometimes people make the wrong choices. I believe fully that we should extend more understanding and have better resources for people to make the world a more accepting and kind place for neurodivergent people. But let's also make sure that we have the kind of communities that aren't going to make excuses or allowances for misogyny, transphobia, homophobia, racism, or any other kind of nasty thing you can think of. My BPD and bipolar affect every aspect of my life because they are deeply embedded in me. But that doesn't mean that everything and anything I do gets some kind of automatic pass. I can ask for space and understanding, but I still have to do my part too. There's this one piece, and this is not the end, written by a 19-year-old named Brittany. It's called You'll Never Understand.
On an average day, one moment I'm riding the high of living an exhilarating life, the next moment I'm falling down the perilous hill of agony. In one day I can experience such a switch in emotion a multitude of times. And it doesn't end there. The real battle is in trying to suppress those feelings to avoid conflict. That is, if I can even recognize them. This is exceptionally hard, especially because of my days, my minutes even, are unpredictable. At any given moment, one thing or another in my environment can become extremely triggering, overwhelming me with intense feelings of abandonment or maybe rigid anger I feel justified in expressing. Or it might trigger the loneliness, the emptiness that encompasses my soul. Anything at any point in time has the potential to trigger the onset of those horrid feelings. And that is the frightening aspect of having BPD. Because the truth is, I never really know what's next.
When I was reading Brittany's words for the first time, I started to tear up. And when I finished, I went to the front of it and I reread it again. And when I finished the second time, I started to cry again. Because I could have written this. Brittany, who was 18 years old when she was diagnosed with borderline, held up a mirror to my face, said, "Surprise, bitch," and I thanked her for it. The thing that's so heartbreaking for me is that later in this account, Brittany says that she's made the decision to isolate herself, to not make any new connections, friends, lovers, etc., until she has her condition fully under control.
For now, I avoid close relationships because I don't yet have the capacity to maintain them. But my hopes are that one day, when I feel just a little better and have a whole host of coping skills and dialectics under my belt, I will pursue more meaningful relationships. For now, though, I put them off limits.
Is that what I'm supposed to do? Just keep everybody away? Isolate? Never make a connection? Potentially ever again? Will I ever get to be vulnerable?
Transparent.
No, not transparent. I really mean it this time. I want to be able to let my guard down sometimes, to be messy, to make mistakes and trust that I won't lose everybody that I care about. I want to be able to tell people how I'm feeling, what it feels like when my brain is just screaming at me about all the ways that I don't belong and how I'm a failure. How do I know who to tell when my brain can make giant leaps in logic if somebody smiles at me the wrong day or corrects me in a slightly off tone? I can barely carry the burden of myself. Why should anybody else have to go through that?
That's why you didn't want to reach out for help on this one, isn't it?
I don't want to hurt people anymore, especially the ones that I care about.
You will, though. You already have.
I see my bipolar and borderline as having splash damage. The thought of being alone. I mean, let's say what it is. It's hell.
I recognize that it's probably selfish on some level, but I won't accept one where isolation is the only way forward. If I can't have friends, lovers, people in my life who see every nasty, dirty little crevice of my soul and still accept me for who I am, then what's the point of getting well in the first place? I'm not entitled to anything, I know that, but am I really so broken that it's just best for everybody to stay away? Do I ever get to be vulnerable again?
You know, you never actually finished it.
What?
The quote, from You'll Never Understand, the one that we like so much. You read the first part of it, but you didn't actually finish it. Remember the rest?
I do.
The life of someone with BPD is beautifully disastrous. Well, at least my life is. While there are so many struggles of living with BPD, there are also a few positive aspects. For one thing, I feel things very deeply. The depth with which I love can be so incredible. I love both widely and deeply, and I don't know if many others could truly feel the same. Because I feel so intensely, the happiness I experience is great because I can compare it to the pain I've experienced, which is also great. I have incredible insight into the inner workings of my being. When I'm in a rational frame of mind, I can identify what I'm feeling, why I'm feeling it, and how my reactions both positively and negatively affect myself and those around me. And last, my compassion for others is genuine. When I say, I know how you feel, I literally know how someone feels, because I feel every emotion under the sun on a constant basis. I can be empathetic in the most authentic form. Although I struggle daily, I survive my difficulties with true strength. I still work to get through every day, from the moment I wake up to the moment I fall back asleep. Every day I do the best I can, and that is the best I can do. But hey, isn't that all any of us can do?
We've been distant from everybody the last couple of years since our last big flare-up.
Yeah, that would be fair to say.
Tell me, how has that been for you?
Not great, to be honest. Seems I've gotten to be a bit avoidant in my later years.
Maybe it's not avoidant. Maybe it's protective of other people. Sure, but most importantly, probably yourself. Perhaps there was a time when that served you, but things change. And you definitely have.
Have I changed enough, though?
Come on. We gotta finish the video.
Antidepressants are so not a big deal. Big whoop, you're on an antidepressant. Take 2 with or without a meal.
Okay, you know what? Pause before we, wrap up this whole video essay thing. I just gotta ask, what's going on with you? You seem so different.
What do you mean?
Well, usually, and, please take this as nicely as possible, you're kind of a bitch. You show up, you undermine my confidence, make me question everything.
I guess that is true. Yeah, fair enough.
I honestly expected you to do it the whole video, but you didn't. Why not?
Let me answer you with a question of my own. All of those times that I was really critical of you, putting you down, yelling at you, name-calling, did it ever accomplish anything?
What?
Did we still make mistakes?
Yes.
Exactly.
But we're gonna keep making mistakes.
Yeah.
More people might get hurt.
Probably.
And you're okay with that?
Okay isn't really the right word. I would say accept is more appropriate. All of those things that I said, I was trying to make us better. But we became better in spite of it, not because of it. Those cruel things that I said, they didn't make us any better. They just made us feel worse. Add guilt and shame on top of everything else. Look, I don't know. I think emotions aren't really good or bad. I think you just kind of have to feel them, and sometimes, that's just what you need to do in that moment, even if it's not a particularly helpful emotion overall. But I don't think that piling on top of yourself with everything else is really a good idea. It just makes you wallow.
Oh.
We're trying to get well, right? Like trying to learn from all of this. We're reading and journaling. We've written apologies and tracked our mood. We're trying to get in regular exercise again and working on regular sleep.
Is it really enough, though?
Maybe not for other people, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be. It is for us, and that's what's important.
Thank you. Thank me? Us? I don't know. Let's just promise to never bring this up at therapy.
Deal. There is one other thing that you're gonna have to do, and it's gonna be the hardest thing of all.
Harder than trying to get to sleep when the hypomania hits?
Yeah. You need to forgive me. You need to forgive yourself.
I don't think I can do that. Not yet. Anyway. I'm sorry. I want to, but...
Just keep saying those things that make us feel silly, okay? With enough practice, they're bound to feel less awkward. I'm worthy. I'm capable of growth. I'm lovable. I deserve to be here.
I'm worthy. I'm capable of growth. I'm lovable. I deserve to be here. I'm worthy. I'm capable of growth. I'm lovable. I deserve to be here. I'll try. Are you crying? It was really beautiful, I need to call my wife.
I am neurodivergent and I am polyamorous. I have bipolar and I'm borderline. I love Diet Pepsi and yet also drink copious amounts of water. I pee constantly. I know that navigating relationships is especially fraught for me, but I'm doing my best. Like we all do. And in some ways, being neurodivergent has helped me with being polyamorous. I really can't imagine what the alternative would be like. Would I be cleaner around my usually messy edges? More productive? Have more money in the bank? Maybe. But I also think that my world wouldn't be quite as bright and as vibrant as it is. The highs are certainly worth the lows. There are ways that I connect with others and the world that are just honestly really beautiful.
I honestly believe that as a result of it, I have felt more things, more deeply, had more experiences, more intensely, loved more and been more loved, laughed more often for having cried more often, appreciated more the springs for all the winters, worn death as close as dungarees, appreciated it and life more, seen the finest and the most terrible in people, and slowly I learned the values of caring, loyalty and seeing things through. I have seen the breadth and depth and width of my mind and heart and seen how frail they both are and how ultimately unknowable they both are. Depressed, I have crawled on my hands and knees in order to get across a room and have done it for month after month, but normal or manic, I have run faster, thought faster and loved faster than most I know. And I think much of this is related to my illness, the intensity it gives to things and the perspective it forces on me. I think it has made me test the limits of my mind, which, while wanting, is holding, and the limits of my upbringing, family, education, and friends.
I have to be constantly aware and regulating myself, which honestly is exhausting, and some days I do way better at that than others. I do things like journaling and mood tracking as well as therapy, when I can afford it, to help keep myself regulated. Right now I'm actually working hard on getting back into like regular exercises, which I am sad to report does work very well for my mental health. Boo, I don't like being sweaty. I also do my best to try and get regular sleep as well as limit my caffeine intake later in the day. The biggest obstacle honestly has been self-talk, as you probably could guess from this video, as well as just like being able to trust people, like let them in closer and such. But yeah, it's an ongoing process. I keep working on it because I am worthy and lovable, and I have shown a lot of growth, and I deserve to be here. And so do you. So later tonight, or later this week, or month, or year, whenever, if you find yourself struggling, maybe take the time to try and say those things out loud to yourself. Believe it or not, they really do help a lot. And maybe, one day, we'll all believe it. I am worthy. I am capable of growth. I am lovable. I deserve to be here. I am worthy. I am capable of growth. I am lovable. I deserve to be here. I am worthy. I am capable of growth. I'm lovable. And I deserve to be here. I am worthy. I am capable of growth. I'm lovable. I deserve to be here.
'Cause when you call her crazy, you're just calling her in love. Blam!
Ooh, God, I really hope that this was worth the wait, because if not, I'm toast. There's half my subscribers gone. Good luck getting a 10K now, bitch! This was a very challenging video to make, and definitely went in a direction I did not expect at all. There was a lot that I really wanted to talk about in this video, and I know that some of it definitely didn't make it in. There was this one book in particular that I read while researching for this video that I had a lot of feelings on. Because I had the whole AJ Mahari spot, it didn't really make sense to include a tangent on this book as well. So what I decided to do is over on patreon.com/Mainely Mandy, you can actually see me review and talk about this book, one that I have seen on multiple like recommended reading lists for people with borderline or people who know people with borderline personality disorder specifically. And I have feelings about it because it frustrated me. Patreon, if you've been hiding under a rock, is a platform that allows people who really enjoy what I do and want to support my work to give me money directly. In exchange, they get some exclusive content that is not available anywhere else, including behind the scenes videos, video diaries, and very recently now can say reviews. I've been kind of teasing the idea of doing reviews now over on Patreon for a little while now, so I've decided finally to take the plunge and to do it. At the time that I'm recording this, I already have one review up that is a review of the movie The Life of Chuck, which I really enjoyed, but it did have some thoughts about like the way it was formatted, so my Patreon supporters have access to that. So if you want to see that, if you want to see some of the other stuff that I have available, you can go over to patreon.com/Mainely Mandy, sign up for whatever tier you can comfortably afford, and then have access to that material. Originally, the plan was to do just reviews of my resources that I use for these videos, but then I decided I wanted to do a review of Life of Chuck, and there's some other things I've been thinking about doing like little reviews for, nothing too fancy, you know, like I've seen a lot of really good movies this year so far. There's so many more that I want to see, and I don't know, I like talking about media, even though I'm not a media analysis channel, so I just thought it would be something kind of fun to do, just to mix it up, and again, give my Patreon supporters more access to some content, because yeah, they've been sticking to me even with the lower turnout, and I really appreciate that. You guys are awesome. You can also do a one-time donation if you prefer. My Venmo, PayPal, and Coffee information should all be down below in the description box. Thank you all so much for watching. Please remember to engage in the comment section down below before leaving, especially if you are bipolar, borderline, or one of those really cool special people who have both. And remember, subscribe if you're not AJ Mahari, which I mean, I think that makes sense. I think I'm doing you a favor, girl. I don't think you want to be here. Not to mention, these labels are really more just adjectives meant to describe things such as cis versus straight. Whoopsie. That's not me. That's not me. Where is my next line? We shall see. That's not me. That's not me. Where's my next line? Let's see if we can find me. As a leading scientific expert in the field, I encourage those with BPD to find healthy coping mechanisms to deal with their problems, the same way that we all have to. Let's do cocaine. I got this. This is gonna be hard, but I got this. Amanda, that's editing right now, you're doing great. You're doing great. You got this, girl. Murray, now. Meow. Lethargy. Lethargy? Lethargy. Lethargy. An intense lethargy. That doesn't sound like lethargy. Neither word sounds right. I say lethargic. Lethargy. Lethargic, lethargy. That sounds more right. I'm gonna say that. An intense lethargy. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound right. I think that's enough of that sentence. I'm over that sentence. I'm moving on from that sentence. I never want to say that sentence ever again. They talk, and then she talks, and then they talk, and then she talks, and then when do I talk again? When do I talk again? Hit the showers. Throw in the towel. Other things. All right, if you're gonna come in here, you have to be good. No meowing. Good. Watch out for the wires. A lot of wires. Don't die. What? Murray, I'm worthy. I'm capable of growth. I deserve to be here. Oh. Here he is. There's the cat. There's your cat for this video. I know. You're very handsome. You wanna get in the window? Okay, you can get in the window. Murray, do not kick off of me. There's equipment in here. It would go very badly for everybody.